Welcome to the Lifeline, a production of Simply BJE. The goal of this podcast is to build, inspire, and to empower our listeners through conversations on business, leadership, and mental health. We invite you to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and at www.simplybje.com/the Lifeline. Now, let's tune in for today's episode. Top of the day, everyone. Thank you for joining us for this episode of The Lifeline. We're your host, life coach, and motivational speaker, Bo Powell, social media influencer and owner of the For Real brand, Lindsberg Petway, and yours truly, leadership coach and mental health advocate, Barry J. Elliott. You can visit us at www.simplybje.com/The Lifeline and on social media on Facebook, Instagram, and now on YouTube. Today we have Mr. James E. O'Neill, who transitioned from an almost 16-year career as an exemplary classroom instructor, including 6 years as department chair, to leading Mastery for All LLC. His organization promotes K-12 math mastery through professional development, consulting, and coaching, and with a focus on empowering Black boys to uplift all students. As a speaker, James inspires educators, parents, and communities to play their part in education. Welcome today, Mr. O'Neill. How are you?
Doing well, Barry. Good, doing well.
Glad
Appreciate
to
you
have
having
you,
me, man.
man. Glad to have you. We were talking before we went live. I guess we've known each other for almost 20 years now. Close
Yeah,
to it. Okay.
yeah.
All right. You're doing some big things. So tell us a little bit about Mastery for All, how it got started, how you transitioned from the classroom to full-time educational consulting and public speaker.
Yeah. I appreciate it. Thanks for inviting me. I appreciate you, always plugging me in and sharing the story and everything. So I was a classroom teacher. I actually went to school to be a teacher, specifically middle school math. I went to NC State Wolfpack here at
Mm.
North Carolina. And so I graduated. Don't shake your head, man. Don't shake
No,
your
you
head.
about to start a riot. You talking about schools, you about to start a riot. You just don't even know.
I believe it. I believe it. But yeah, I went to be a middle school math teacher. It's funny, I had a degree to be both math and science. There was a dual program, never taught science, never wanted to teach science. I fell in love with math as a young kid. Ended up graduating, moving to Pittsburgh, lived there for 9 years, taught there for 8 years, and moved back here to Charlotte, where I continue to teach. And really saw that I had a passion not just for mathematics, but a passion for just seeing Black boys advance in mathematics. I've always had this, now I could say, calling on my life to just really advance just really advance our Black men. At the time, my friends, my colleagues, anyone in the space. But when I got into a space where I saw Black boys and saw the struggle, I just wanted to make sure that, first of all, people knew what was possible for us, and then also what they needed to know as well, what was possible for them. And so I've centered success by making sure they're successful. To make a very long story short, how I got into Mastery for All full time, I started really being pushed by some of my colleagues and my administration to really start presenting at different conferences, local conferences, and I started sharing my story about expectations, and that really led to me realizing that honestly, there's something here. I grew up in church, and anytime that you grow up in church and you feel like you have a gift to speak, they're gonna push you to preach, and so my thing was that never came into real fruition, even though I've been a minister, an elder at one time. What was really on me was the speaking to the systems in education, and so I really had to learn that ultimately that was the call, and not that preaching in a pulpit was necessarily the thing I needed to do, but the gift to speak, the gift to teach was really from God, and it was in the system of education. And so I started Mastery for All literally to answer the call of the success of Black boys in math education. I really say all is inclusive of them. Many times I go into many districts and I ask you to show me your data, and I know some of the guys can attest to this. And who's the Lord's performing? It is our Black boys, and I don't believe that is by coincidence, meaning that the system was not ultimately set up for the success of people of color in general, but ultimately I don't believe that has to be the case in general. And so I've seen success for all students, and specifically our Black boys, and my business really promotes that by providing professional development and coaching and consulting to teachers and leaders in the space of that. And I'm also a speaker as well, which I talk about expectations. A lot of the work that I do deals with mindset. how everything we do right now filters through what we believe, even in the classroom, who you talk to, what assignments you give, what homework you give, who you allow, how much freedom you allow the kids. It's all based upon our mindset. And so I'm passionate about the work, excited to do the work, and ultimately it's a call of God on my life.
Man, I like you for real. And I say that because being a former educator, the reason why I got in education, because I didn't see anyone that looked like me. Number one. And number two, just hearing your story, how you navigated through that and having a passion for Black boys. I'll say this math, when I was in education as a leader, math was always hard to Black boys. What was it about math that attracted you at a young age? Because you seemed like you had a passion for it for a long time.
Yeah, that's true. It's funny that I smile because I know what attracted me to it. I look back. My mom went to heaven in 2021, and I look back on what my mom used to tell me a lot. Is that you little bossy little boy? And she gave me this little nickname called Mastermind because I just love being right. And I at one time I thought I was going to be a lawyer because I just like defending. If I knew I was right, you couldn't tell me I was wrong. But when I saw math and and I could prove that I was right, I got addicted to that. Like before you even check my paper, I used to check my work to make sure I was good and everything like that. And so I fell in love with math, not because someone taught it to me and it made it, open it up to me. I just like the feeling of, man, I got it, I got it, I got it. And there's science behind that, the whole dopamine feeling when you feel successful and you get something and you understand something, how that brings about this feeling of more, you wanting more of that. And honestly, as a young kid, I just really got addicted to the fact that, man, not only am I right, but I can tell that I'm right and I can prove it and I can check my work. And so I was a little nerd like that growing up, and it really really brought out the idea of like I like math because of this.
So I'm intrigued. How did you transcend that from you to your students?
So that's a really good question, and I people because I'm about to do a workshop on this next month. Well, this month, later in the month, and people feel like I come from the lens that everybody wants to be successful. I that's just that is the foundation. Whether you're black, white, male, female, whatever, it doesn't matter. Everyone wants to be successful. That's the foundation I start with. And so to translate that, I start off with that foundational belief that the kid that's sitting in the room would rather want to get to know how to solve fractions. That kid would rather want to know how to graph the equation as opposed to sit back there, put his head down, feel incompetent, or crack jokes at the expense of the fact that I don't know what I'm talking about. And if you call my name, I got to act crazy because I don't want everybody to know that I feel like I'm stupid or I feel like something's wrong with me. I know that that student would rather crave the desire to get it as opposed to not to get it. And so what I spent my entire career was like, how can I get kids to get it? No matter where you are, no matter what level you're on. And I know there's different levels in mathematics and all that good stuff, but I started from the foundation. It's like, you want to get this. And as soon as you get it and you start to understand, like it's going to open up this idea, like I want to understand more. And so that's how I translated it. Like I didn't believe that the kid that scored F's last year that's what they want. Like they sign up today, be like, oh, let's go fill school today and every day. Like that's not my belief. And so I became more solution oriented and like, how can I make this simpler? How can I make the learning stick for them? And when by just thinking that way, God gave me ideas and I came up with ideas to really allow mathematics to really stick with my students.
So you
That's
had the
powerful.
success with the students. I know your administrators didn't want to let you go. So how did you make that transition from the classroom to the entrepreneurship of it?
Yeah, so definitely. So, so I had an amazing administrator. I'm gonna shout out Dr. Barone right now. See, she understood that she saw the writing on the wall before I did. And because she saw the writing on the wall, she was just like, if I muzzle James, he's gonna leave before I want him to leave. And so she literally allowed me to go off and do certain conferences. She allowed me and she knew that James cares about his kids. So he's not going to not leave sub plans. He's not going to leave videos and make sure his kids are held accountable when he's not in the classroom because he's gone for a week. There was a time, and I learned some things about, nonprofits and hiring contractors to teach and do their work. And when I learned that side of the game, I was just like, oh, there are people literally that are being contracted to teach the content of other nonprofits in education. And when I got onto one of those nonprofits, they literally had a conference for the entire week, which means I needed to leave school for the entire week. What principal would want one of their star teachers, if you will, to leave for the entire week? Not
Right.
anyone. But when you have someone in place that's going to put parameters, no, of course, kids are not all kids going to do the work. You're not there. The success rate of kids doing work when you're out of the building or out of the classroom definitely plummets as opposed to being in the classroom. But she knew that if I clip his wings, he gonna fly and leave earlier. So she understood that and she used that to her advantage. And she literally told me, whenever you go out, I don't care who's trying to pull you in, always come back home. That's what her saying was, and majority of the time I did come back home.
Wow, that's just an amazing story, man. But just going back, you said you transitioned, you were full-time educator and transitioned to full-time. And I know many people who struggle in that transition. So how difficult was it for you to make that transition? And also, it's a two-part question. What advice would you give to people who are looking to transition from a 9 to 5 to having their own business full time?
Yeah, so how difficult was that transition? Man, I tell people I did not see this coming. Like when I say this was a call from God, like literally, you look back and you be like, oh, that's what he was doing along the way. Oh, okay, I see, you see the path and everything like that. I was literally at a conference, and before I even got to that conference, I've been praying and asking God for, mentorship in the area of business and consulting because I had started being a contractor for this nonprofit. And literally, they were paying me $1,000 a day to do some of their work. So you thinking like I'm a teacher, I'm an educator, and I'm literally making my monthly salary in a week. And I'm just like, if they're paying me $1,000 and this is 5 days, like what is the contract on the other end that they're getting
Right.
that they're paying? They're all my flight. My hotel, they're giving me a per diem, $75 per diem. I felt like a king. I was like, what in the world? Where does this exist at? I've never seen anything like this before. And so literally, that really opened me up to like what's possible. And I look back on the story now, God was kind of just showing me, all right now. I didn't know at the time. I was just happy. I was just like, okay, I got a little vacation money, you know what I'm saying? I'm good with this. But I ended up joining not an organization, but a mastermind. And I was on the call one day and I heard this call of investment. And I ain't never invested at the level I invested in myself before. And I was literally heard that call, went to the conference, and woke up that Saturday morning and heard a voice that I think I've heard twice in my life as crystal clear. I am brushing my teeth, and I hear God say to me, "You're going full time." And I was like, I rebuke you, devil. Like there is just no, I said, first of all, this ain't me. Cause I would never tell myself this. This is not me. So this is either God or it is the devil. Like this is spiritual. I just got to figure out who it is trying to play games with my life because this is not something I would sign up for. But I knew after a while that it was the Lord calling me to that. And I had to wrestle with the entire day of telling people because that was my thing of getting it off of me. Like, I'm going full time into this. I thought I was going to go up to the next level in my school district, but God is calling me full time. And so I say that longer story to say that the hard part was really seeing myself as a business owner. I've been a teacher. You know what I'm saying? For 15 and a half years, at the time, 14 and a half years. And that's all I knew. But I didn't know that in teaching, and this is the part that I'll get to and I'll stop after this, but that there are so many transferable skills when you're teaching and you're thinking about business. As far as analyzing data, check. I mean, that's all I did. How do I know if the kids got it? How did I know that they understand it? I mean, the administrative skills, the multitasking that teachers do, the customer service to make sure that that student is not with that student, and making sure that you're able to solve that problem and put that fire out. There's so many transferable skills. The hardest part was changing my mind to be like, but this is who I am now. And I've been trained in a way to do this. I just got to learn the new things. So letting go of the old and then moving on into the new was one of the hardest things for me to do. So the advice I would to ask people or present to people is to look at your story and just make sure you try to start connecting the dots. Like, what are the skills now that you have that are transferable to business? And then if you don't have those things, what do you need to start building? What's the mindset you need to start building, which is number one? What is the skill set? What are the the legal things? Is it an LLC? Like, what are the things you need to start building in order to start with a foundation that's pretty secure? As secure as you can be, because it's the last thing I'm gonna say. My friend told me one day, he's like, if you want to know God, become a entrepreneur, because there's no faith walk like the entrepreneur faith walk. Because I literally remember that I looked on the calendar, it was September, and I ain't see nothing on October, November, December for the rest of the year. And I said, Jesus, now listen, listen, sir. You called me to this. Now I don't know what this little faith, new little walk I gotta do, but you gotta fill up this calendar. But that's some of the advice I'll give to people.
Let me ask you a question, because you talked about the difficulty of starting your own business, and I've heard several businessmen that we've had on, including these two, talk about going to business. One of the challenges for them is that they had never seen business modeled in a up close and personal way. For instance, a family member, parent, or something like that. Did you have a model before you?
So it's crazy that I used to look at my dad and his dad, they were hustlers. And so my dad always had this side thing that didn't work out, never really worked out. He picked up several things that never worked out. And so I saw this like side hustle on the and that was in my DNA from my grandfather to my dad, but I never had this model of how to do this. And so I would say a part of my story is that I am blessed that I joined that mastermind. That mastermind literally was designed for Black people who wanted to have an educational consulting business. A woman by the name of Erica Jordan Thomas literally started a business to really get Black people that wanted to go, that were in education, that wanted to start education consulting business or go full time or do this or part time. She literally went through the program. I mean, she literally done it herself and was teaching people how to do it. And so I honestly know that I wouldn't have been, it's only been a year and a half. I haven't been in the business that long, but the success that I've had so far is not just attributed to, the things I've done. It's contributed to the community that I've had and that mastermind to push me. Somebody's already there. Somebody's already reached, seven figures in their business and literally showing you what they did, giving you the play, giving you the workshops. That ultimately changed the game for me. And so when I tell people now, if you can find a community, if you can bet on yourself and you vet people for who they are, but if you can get in a community of people that are trying to do the same thing that you're doing and somebody that has the play that are willing to give you the play and run it your way, it can just cut down on some of the time, some of the headaches, some of the cost as well. But it is going to be an investment, and I'm grateful. I've been in this community going on 3 years, and it's been a game changer for me.
Now, you mentioned investment, and sometimes that's one of the roadblocks from people taking it to the next level. What convinced you to invest in yourself? Because I'm sure there was some type of financial investment that you had to play into it.
Yes, sir. And I've been uh, coached to say the numbers. So, I think in our some Black communities, I ain't gonna say all Black communities, we don't we people talk over like what the financial investments, or people don't say
Mhm.
the money. or just don't talk money because it's been taboo. We don't say. I remember I made a post on Facebook about me reaching six figures. The first time I've done that, my dad was like, "You don't need to tell everybody what you make. They might come for you, and you can't. You don't need it." And I was like, "Dad, it's not the world we live in right now. Okay,
Right.
okay,
Right.
it's a different world right now, Dad." But that investment at that time was $10,000.
Mm,
Yeah.
$10,000 to join that mastermind. Now, I'm gonna be honest.
mhm.
Um, I had the money set up from the nonprofit because I was going to do two, no, I think it was three of their summits in the summer, and it was like pretty much like $5,000 for a week. And so I had two, I think I had two of those lined up. So I had that, coming in the reserves. I was just like, I don't want to use that money for that. Like I never ever invested
Mhm.
at that level. And what? And it's one of those Jesus talks. I'm like, Lord, the devil trying me again. Like, there ain't no way in the world that I can do this. But I did because when I prayed, and I think this is the spiritual part that, not everybody may be listening, maybe spiritual or Christian or whatever like that. But when I prayed and I got on the call before the investment was asked, I said, God, this
Yeah.
is the thing I need. I
Mhm.
immediately said that. There was an awakening in my spirit. And then she asked for the money, and I said, I ain't ready yet. I backed that thing down, and it was 7 days you had to make a decision. And on the seventh day, I was like, "Oh, let me go ahead and do this." It ain't like I ain't got it coming up. Let me go ahead and do this. And so I think I knew then. This is before I knew I was going full time. I didn't even know I was going full time. I was just investing because I knew there was something on my life that this was an answer for. And I think I know sometimes we let the call or the commitment or the ask scare us out of our season where God is going to literally stretch our faith in ways that we had no way of knowing that he was going to stretch our faith in that capacity, nor did you know that you had the capacity to do what you're about to do. And so I think the investment in yourself is you saying, I trust you, Lord. And I trust me as well. Because you got to have history with both people. Like I know that, boy, you've been killing in the classroom forever. You know this about you, James. Like if somebody tells you this is what you need to do, and you feel like you can do it, you're gonna pour everything into it. That gives me confidence to be like, well, I'm just gonna invest this money. I'm just gonna sit idly by. You don't ever sit idly by. You're not going to do that at all because you can't find it in your life. And so now that I see that about me, what about God? When has he failed you? When has he not come through? And I think when those two realities meet, it allows that step of faith that you need to take into the next whatever dimension, whatever you're trying to go into. It allows it to be a little clearer, still scary, but it
Mhm.
allows it to be a little bit better.
Yeah.
One of the things you mentioned, Brother O'Neill, was that you had to kind of recreate yourself and see yourself as a business owner because you never saw that. Kind of lock in on that. How important is it for someone who is seeking to make that transition to begin to transform and re-identify, themselves as a business owner in order for them to be successful? Do you feel like that's played an integral role in your success?
Yeah, yeah, I would definitely agree with that, Bo. People now tap me, for advice or just want to just hear a part of my story. One of the I think the game-changing moves I made was when I was working as a contractor for the nonprofit that I was working for. I no longer introduced myself as, "Hey, everybody, I'm James O'Neill. I'm a middle school math teacher here in Charlotte, North Carolina, blah, 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 blah." I dropped that. And I said, "Hey, everybody, I'm James O'Neill, the owner of Mastery for All, where we support the mastery of mathematics teaching. I am here because I joined with other organizations that align with the work that I do in my own business." And when I started saying things like that, people were like, "Oh, so you're a business owner," or "Oh, this is what you do. Like this is something I can get this, if I necessarily want to get you, I can actually contact you for business." And so that alignment is key. Who you align yourself to be. I made and I was coached to do this, but when I went full time fully in April 10th, which is 2 days from now, it will be 2 years before I made a drip announcement. I have a huge announcement coming up. I did it on my Facebook, and according to me, I went viral among my people because I've never had a post shared as many times. Or people in my DMs was like, "I didn't know you were going to do this." I literally made an announcement like I'm going full time into my business. I'm reintroducing myself because alignment is key. And I heard somebody say this. I'm gonna say it this way: while you're convincing yourself of who you are, that does not mean that the world needs to know that you're convincing yourself. Like
Mhm.
you can still make the impact, still get the contract, still make the money that you want to make, that you can make while you're convincing yourself like this is who you are. And so when I started shifting that and aligning that and speaking that and introducing myself as that, people saw me differently. I changed my messages online. It wasn't like, let me just share this little nice little teacher thing. I had to become an expert. I had to shift my voice. Now I'm the expert. I'm going to speak to what's better math teaching. I'm going to speak to culture that needs to be changed in class. And when I did that, people started to realize like, if I want math, if I want black boys to get it, if I want my teachers to shift their mindsets, James is one of the people that's able to do that because this is all he's now talking about.
Wow, I think that's amazing, man. So, then I wanted you to speak on that because that's one of the things I had to really work on with myself when I transitioned from corporate to, being a business owner too, or being self-employed, however you want to look at that, was I had to re-identify that I'm not that anymore. I'm this.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the challenges that a lot of people have is seeing themselves bigger because, and a lot of it, I think that kind of comes from just our culture. Like you said, your dad don't be telling everybody what you make and all that stuff, and putting yourself out there and all that stuff. It's just risk, and for me, I think when we talk about faith, it's, not about the unknown because you knew what you were doing, but I think it's trouble with the unseen
Hmm.
with that. And I think sometimes it's not the tangible thing or seeing it successful, it's just seeing yourself as that. I think that people tend to struggle with. But before we kind of wrap this up, I want to give people the opportunity to take advantage of your services. So talk to people about Mastery for All, how they can find you on social media, how they can connect with you, and most importantly, man, if they see alignment in that, how they can take advantage of your services.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Right now, my website is mrjamesoneal.com, and that's MrJamesOneal, because O'Neill is spelled many different ways. .com, and all social media is at Mr. James O'Neill, where people can go on my website, request services, request discovery call with me, and they feel like there's alignment in the area of keynote speaking or just math, professional development. I do K-12 mathematics, so that's my lane. If they want to do workshops or anything like that, they can always contact me that way or follow me on any social media that as well. What I find in mathematics is a mindset, and if you get me, you're gonna get mindset work. Because it doesn't matter how, if I say, who, try this and try that, and you can try this, you will shoot everything down if you don't believe it's possible. Or you will try it one time and use the self-fulfilling prophecy of I knew it wasn't going to work. This is not going to work for my kids. Like we hear that all the time, and this fixed mindsets as it relates to mathematics. And so understand when you're getting me, you're getting someone who's going to challenge and push with the mindset and the narrative of who can, because I honestly believe that all can. And so that's how you can find me and in alignment to that work. If that's a fit, if that's what you want to do, change the culture of your school, change the math achievement of your students. Definitely, I'm a person to reach out to.
Awesome, man. We appreciate you joining us this morning. And to our
Absolutely.
audience, this includes another episode of The Lifeline with your hosts, BJE, Lensburg Petway, and Bo Powell. Don't forget to check us out at www.simplybje.com/The Lifeline and on social media. Look, we're on a mission. We want to bring light and life into your household. So join us and let us hear your feedback because it's all about bringing life to you on The Lifeline. Y'all take care.
Thank you for listening to today's episode with host, business expert, and life coach Bo Powell, social media influencer and entrepreneur Lindsberg Petway, and leadership coach and mental health advocate Barry J. Elliott. Join us next week for another impactful conversation on The Lifeline. God bless.